Alright everyone, welcome back. This week we button up dry sump lines. So we've got all the dry sump lines finished up from the sump to the pump. Last week we had the pump to the firewall sorted and we're just starting to get into the fuel cell. So stick around, you'll start seeing us getting the fuel cell mounted. Yeah, it's been a good week. So holes cut, fuel cells in, dry sump lines are done. We do need to finish up the welding, but stick around, you can watch it all unfold. Cheers guys. Alright, so we have our M10 bolts machined down. So these are the one, this is the one for sump just here. So that fits in there nicely. So we'll chuck that in a sec. But the big thing is our order from Raceworks has turned up. So these fittings here that were all just kind of placeholders to work out length, I've actually got the right fittings now. So what I'll be doing is I'll be changing those fittings over for the ones that are permanently going to stay on. We'll take the hoses off. I'll put the little strainers in. So in the dry sump, they run, they're not here. They run basically like a little mesh screen. Let's see if we can find where I've put those. And then the mesh screen just kind of filters out any of the bigger stuff that'll come through the system, and hopefully stop anything getting into the pump that you don't want in there. Andy, I've got my Dash 12 tub. They're in here. So these mesh screens, so it actually goes over the fitting like that, and that'll be obviously in the sump, and then all the oil will pass through it that way. So all our junk will get caught on the screen on the outside here, and then normally I'll just kind of hose them out with a bit of degreaser. So 3 of those screens, 1 for each of the suction ports, and that should be good to go. So we've got our new fittings just here. We'll get those on the pump. Yeah, we can keep trucking along. Should be good. I did start getting a bit sidetracked while I was waiting for fittings. Big hole cut in the floor, so that's getting ready to start mounting the tank up. But we'll leave that as a separate video. Anyway, we'll get plugging on. Alright, all lines are buttoned up. Pretty awkward to try and video in there for you guys, so hopefully it didn't turn out too badly, but everything sits kind of nicely within the bottom. This hose here is a little bit down, but with the flat floor on, it's just going to sit kind of against the floor. One other thing that I've been wanting to do is just tidy these hoses. So obviously we've got them tucked into the back here. They're not tight, I've still got to do that, but something that I was kind of having a play around with. I did it up on these lines years ago. It was actually 3D printed like a clamp. So we've just 3D printed the dash mount for Jimmy's car. That's just here. So that's come out pretty awesome. Pretty stoked with that. And I thought while I was at it, I hate heaps of waste. So while we had the room, and instead of it doing all infill, I've actually printed a couple of clamps. So these are kind of as they come off the printer. This is like the, I don't know, the brim material, and then like the infill. These two here, I've just taken these off and given them a clean up. So the idea is that the socket head can sit in it, and then this side here we could either put a nylock in, so that's a 10 mil, so that'll just like press in nicely, and then you could actually tighten it down. But the idea with this is that there's these holes just here. I don't know if you guys can see it, just there, and then there's another one at the back as well. So what I want to do is I want to try and get these to sit over it so they can hold it nicely separated, hold it tight, and then we could actually push it through there, put a nut on the back side of it, and then those two hoses are actually really nicely held there. They're not going to move, they're not going to vibrate. It's keeping it off of the chassis rail here. And my other thought is that I wouldn't mind putting some fire sleeve on it, just with how close it is to everything. So if I make that fire sleeve the right length, it might even just be able to pinch down and hold in there. So we'll put a nut on the back side of that there, and should be beautiful. I don't think we're rubbing on anything. Nut. So the nuts for the ride height sensor, that's actually sitting just below the hose, so it's not touching anything, which is just what we want. I am interested with obviously the bottom hose here. That's our oil into the pump. I'm keen to try and get kind of a measurement from the ground up and see where the tank's going to sit, and make sure that the height of the tank will be good enough to get flow in there. I have seen that some lines they will run up if people put it in the boot. It's a pretty long run, so I know that the pump will have a certain amount of like suction on the pressure side, so I'm not too concerned, but it'd be nice to know that we do have like a 100 or 200 mil head pressure of oil that constantly wants to feed in. So other than that, we'll see what happens. I'll get to cleaning these up, and yeah. Basically all the engine bay lines are hooked up. Got these little clamps in. They're working a treat. We'll see how that one goes with the heat from the header, but keep an eye on it. Our fittings back here are tight, so basically now it's onto inside the cabin. It's a mess in here, so I started tinkering around, but next up you'll see us hopefully putting the fuel cell in, and my idea is that the dry sump tank is going to kind of mount in front of the fuel cell, so the wall that the cell is mounted to will support the tank. Two birds, one stone, means we're not kind of doubling up on steel. So yeah, been a good one. Nice to tick some boxes off and feel like we're actually getting somewhere. So so the radium cell, we're going to get that in next to me just here. So I'll just cut out a bit of a template. It's a lot easier moving this in and out than the fuel cell. So that's kind of the base dimension of it. So we're going to run it right to the back there and all the way along. I've already started kind of chopping some stuff out. I don't want to chop it to final size. I've actually got a company in Murray Bridge profile cutting me out basically like a basket that's going to hold it, that I'll weld into the floor. So I've got them to make that. It's fairly oversized, and the idea of that is that then I can put it in there. I can mount the dry sump tank to the front side of it, and I can kind of drop the dry sump tank down a little bit into where kind of around here somewhere. But at the moment we've got kind of a high point here, so I want to try and get the fuel cell fairly level. With the car sitting how it is, it's actually level. That's the idea of the style heights. So I've got for the rear and where the jack stand's going to the front is the rocker panel, or the sill panel is level. So I know that when I put this in and go to level it with a spirit level, we should be able to get it spot on, nice and level. I may put a little bit of it kind of laying back. I'll work out where, yeah, well, the lift pump sits fairly central, so there's probably no point to do that. So we'll try and get it sitting fairly level, and then, yeah, weld it in. So I've got that cut out. I've just got under the car, I don't know if you're able to see, there's probably a bit of a line around here. So I'm just going to try and cut to that line, take this hump out and see how level that sits. I think I'll need to go further, but it'll just be a good starting point for me. And yeah, we'll just keep chipping along with it. So I'm looking forward to it once we get the fuel cell in. I've taken a lot of the wiring, I've just dragged that out. So that's been a bit of a thing for me, is I've just got to focus on getting the wiring finished. Obviously it never got wrapped. It was kind of always in a, I wasn't too sure if it was going to work out and how it was going to work out, so I left it, but it appears to be working. Now that we've moved all of our fuel pump wiring from the boot to, it's going to be at the fuel cell, I've just got to move a couple of wires there. Fuel level sensor, all of that as well is going to have to come back down, so that's all right, we can splice into that and get that happening. But yeah, I'll chuck you guys on the time lapse. I'm going to hook in with the angle grinder, start cutting out a bit more of the floor so I can get into it and start making progress. So stick with us. Alright, so the hole's even bigger now. I'm in two minds about what to do with this chassis rail. Now, it's pretty average. It's pretty banged up. It's an old Jap car. It got treated like one, I'm sure. It looks like at some point someone's tried jacking it up here. The other side's pretty average too. While I'm here, what I'm thinking I could do is this little leg here. We're cutting back here anyway. I'm kind of half tempted just to slice through it. Make my hole up to here. Leave this, just trim it down. So I've marked up here. It's gonna have to get cut down to about that height. And then I'm half tempted, because this here is level and it's not in bad nick. It's got a couple of little marks, but it's probably been used as a drift car in a previous life, and I certainly haven't treated it overly great. So my thought is, if I take out that rail, I might make something that's basically follows this level, and that could end up actually being part of our mount for a flat floor. So at the moment I was going to have to work out off all this wonky junk what level is. Sorry about that. Waiting on a phone call, and that wasn't the one I was waiting for. But anyway, yeah, I've decided this is just going to come out. I'm going to slice it back here, do my cut along the front here to there, and then hopefully that whole piece should come out. I reckon there's going to be two spot welds here that will still be attaching it to this piece of the chassis rail, but then I should just be good to slice that, and then I reckon it'll nearly just sit in, and that'll be good. We'll be able to, I've actually left this just a little bit long, so this is the line where the fuel tank should go, and that's where it should go as well, so up to here. I've just left a little bit here because I figure I can massage this around and just weld underneath it, because I'm going to struggle kind of welding down the backside here. So all of this will probably get welded from the underside into the box that we fold up. But yeah, ticking things off. I reckon I'll keep cutting down that line, zip the rail, and hopefully that whole piece of the rail will come out. I'm not too stressed about strength. The roll cage will have plenty of strength in it. I don't think I'll need to worry. So anyway, we'll cut a bit more up. Alright, before this hole gets too much bigger. This is basically as far as I want the tank to come this way. It should sit on there and sit on there. This will probably have to get trimmed where it starts coming up, but I think that should be good width wise. It may just be a smidge tight, but I'd rather be tight and us kind of had to file fit it to go in than make it hugely loose. So, time to lift it in. Well, that fits really well. Fairly tight down that side already, which is good. It does need to come back a bit, but the box that I've made up is a fair bit larger because it's actually coming up here and then coming back across, and my idea is to use these 3 bolts to hold it down, so they will then clamp onto the bracket that I make front and back, and then the dry sump tank here. So all in all, pretty stoked with that. It probably needs to come back about 10 mil. There you go, let's grab spirit level, see how it looks. Point, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, 0.3 up at the front. So it just needs to come down a smidge at the front. Oh, sorry, it needs to come up at the front. Oh, yeah, we're pretty much on that way. Left to right, 1 degree. This side needs to come down. That's all right, that's only sitting on all of that. So when I put that tray in, that should be bang on. There you go, we're bang on. Oh, how good. All right. I think that's probably enough for that. I'm going to go pick up the tray tomorrow, and then we'll need to fold that, so that could be a bit fun. I'm not too sure how I'm going to go folding it, but we'll see what happens. I might make a mark on the back side of the tank, because I made the sides here like 100 mil tall, so they might be able to be a bit smaller just to give us the room to fold. So I might go in now, clean up the container where my folder is, and yeah, we should be good. All right. Alright, this is going to look like a bit of a fast forward, but had my dad up, giving me a bit of a hand. We planned to do some stuff, but that didn't pan out, so we tinkered race car, and that's meant that we've actually got the fuel cell pretty much done. So we got the this tray profile cut by Murray Land Metals up at Murray Bridge. They knocked that out pretty quick for us, so it was awesome. And then we just folded it up here at home. I didn't get a whole lot of footage of that. Dad was up just spending some time with him tinkering around, so we bent that up and then kind of got it all fitted. So pretty happy with the fitment of it. The floor's wavy, that's just how the stock floor is, but the fitment side of it is actually pretty good all the way around. Good old hole in the front. So this was the plan for the dry sump tank. So with that sitting there, that's kind of about as low as I would want to put it. The drain plug is level with the bottom of the fuel cell, and it's kind of protected by the trans cross member. So when this does get a flat floor on it, then it will be even more protected. But for now, it's up high enough that I'm not too concerned by it. But it makes it nice and easy to drain it, all of that. So this was how we mounted it, was with this return, drilled a hole and we could actually bolt through the flange. So the flange that actually holds all the fuel tank together is also what's holding it in. And then the dry sump is obviously bolted to this same bracket, but I've got to take it all out now, weld up all these corners all around, and then we're going to get some foam, and we're just going to put some packing foam in between here, because at the moment it does actually slide around a little bit, not a lot, but I want it to be nice and firm, and I'll be able to put some kind of 3mm foam, 4mm foam in the bottom of it, and then when we bolt it down, it'll clamp and sandwich that in nicely. So yeah, a little bit of a recap, bit of a fast forward, but while Dad was up, I thought we'd make the most of it, spend a bit of time. So yeah, but all right, now we'll take it all out and we'll start welding it all up. All right, everyone. I reckon we'll round out the week there. We've got the fuel cell tray turned up and folded up. So come back next week. You'll start seeing that going in. Yeah, it's been fun.